Sorry, Mose couldn't be here, but he doing the Mrs. Mosley thing right now. You know, and they're out doing. They're enjoying Valentine's Day. Is what I was trying to say.
I got you.
Nah, the worst.
You don't know nothing, you don't know nothing, you don't know nothing. You don't know nothing, you don't know nothing, but I know that. You don't know nothing, you don't know nothing, but I know that. You don't know nothing, you don't know nothing, but I know that. Mose know it all. Mose know it all. I guarantee real takes, ain't no faking that at all. If you don't know, you gon' know. Mose knows, tune into the show. Not a game, nitty gritty, ready go committee. Mose should be the CEO. Too solid, too real, too 100. I'ma keep it real when you don't. Just that real gold talk. 24 karat words. San Francisco 49er fam. Realest squad on the earth. The 5 God, number 5, taking us to 6. Young killer Trey Lance. New era, new season. Mose got you covered. Go ahead and subscribe. 2022 this year. Got a whole nother vibe. Mose know it all. Mose know it all. Mose know it all. Tune in for the vibe. You don't know nothing, you don't know nothing, you don't know nothing. You don't know nothing, you don't know nothing, but I know that. You don't know nothing, you don't know nothing, you don't know nothing. You don't know nothing, you don't know nothing, but I know that. Mose knows.
Mose knows fam. What's happening? What's going on? Back in the building. Look, I know I've been away a little bit. The content ain't been coming out. It's supposed to be coming. Look, I got a lot going on, a lot on my plate. But guess what? Football season is right around the corner. I don't even count today. We already at 10:30. For those of y'all tuning in, the late night show, I appreciate you. Thank you very much. Glad that you're here. I'm glad that I'm here. I don't even count today. Today is not counted. We got one day left. That's tomorrow. Hopefully we can get through tomorrow as quickly as possible. Thursday come, we get through that day. I can go to work, handle my business, take care of my emails, make sure everybody's straight, leave early, come home, get the food ready for the Thursday night because football season is here. Week 1 is here. This is what we've been waiting for. I got the fam. I got JNay_LSS. You know him as Jessie Naylor, Last Second Sports, giving you his takes down to the last motherfucking second. Jessie, what's up with you, man?
Yo, what is up, man? That song, that intro, that shit's tight. I'm not going to lie. That shit was real tight. I appreciate you for having me on. I'm so glad that you put this together. We talked last year, right? We went through the stages last year, our quarterly stages. I'm so happy to do it again with you this year. Man, I'm ready to just talk some football, man. Because like you said, basically 24 hours away. Like, let's just cut these hours in half. We're 24 hours away. Let's go.
Yeah, man, we definitely talked last year. I forget when I brought you on. I probably brought you on after like the first quarter. We did our quarterly check-ins, and we said we wanted to do it again this year, but this time start from the beginning. Man of your word, jumping on. We're going to do this. So we're going to bring you these every quarter. So after the first 4 weeks, another video with me and Jessie going over, some of what we touch on tonight and our outlook for the rest of the season. So you'll get one after every 4 games. Obviously, it's not 16 games anymore, 17 games. So the last one will be after the 5 games. We'll kind of split it up like that as we go into the postseason. But we're ready to take a look and jump into this season preview, man. We got a lot to talk about. We're not going to keep you long. We already know you're up late. Shout out to some of the people that's in the chat right now. Cinnamon Kiss, what's up, sis? How you doing? Raphael, 562 Niners. What up, Mose, Jessie, and everyone? Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to this late night show, man. Jessie, let's jump right in. We're going to start at the top because it's usually the top of the organizations where if you got strong leadership, usually that equates to being able to be successful. Now, whether it's quick, whether it's a slow process, it's a build-up. Usually if you have good leadership at the top, that can lead to some success. There are 10 teams in the NFL with new head coaches. Let's take a look at some of these names, these old faces in new places. Let's pull this up right here. We have Kevin O'Connell, new head coach in Minnesota. Todd Bowles, who was there as the defensive coordinator, now takes over as the head coach. Josh McDaniels going from New England to the Raiders as head coach. Nathaniel Hackett, head coach of the Denver Broncos. Doug Peterson taking over for the Jacksonville Jaguars. We got Brian Daboll in New York. Lovie Smith stays in Houston. Matt Eberflus goes from Indy to Chicago. Mikey McNuggets, a.k.a. Mike McDaniel, down in Miami. And we got Dennis Allen taking over in New Orleans. Jesse, your thoughts. Of these 10 coaches, who do you think is set up for instant success? Who can be a successful head coach and get his team, to a winning record, possible playoff appearance right away out the gate?
Man, I look at 4 coaches, right? And I narrow it down to 4, go from 10 to 4. And the teams that I look at instantly are the Bucks, the Saints, the Raiders, and the Vikings, right? The reason for that is the Vikings bringing in an offensive-minded coach, a quarterback-minded coach for one Kirk Cousins, who I think is a very underrated player already, but now he's finally got an offensive-minded guy to really get the best out of him and the best out of that offense. There's a ton of weapons on that offense. So I like the Vikings. The Raiders, this is McDaniel's second time around, right? He was very, very young when he took that Broncos job. He came into a situation that didn't have a good quarterback situation. I just talked about how Kirk Cousins is underrated. I think Derek Carr is extremely underrated as well. Derek Carr, to me, is a guy that can throw for 40 touchdowns and 5,000 yards in this league. I really think that he has that potential. You add in some of the offensive weapons that they were able to add. Devontae Adams, you pair that with a Renfro and a Waller, that team could look really good as well. And then you've got the Saints. The reason that I like them is because they're keeping a guy who's been there for many, many years, right? Sure, they go from one of the best coaches in the league, but Dennis Allen was under his tutelage for a long time. And now he gets to stay there, continue working with that team and do some big things. And then you have a very similar situation with Todd Bowles and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with the kicker of one Tom Brady, the GOAT, being there to keep things afloat. So those are the 4 teams for me. I think the obvious answer has to be the Bucks if I have to take one, just because, again, you've got the best quarterback of all time. Sure, the bucket could drop at any point with his age, but I don't expect that to happen. So I'm going to go with the Bucks instantly, the best team possibly in the NFC. And, they just happen to have a new head coach as well.
Yeah, I mean, Tampa's 2 years removed from a Super Bowl appearance and a win. Again, Tom Brady's on that team. We know the defense is solid. They're set up for success. I love the situation that Josh McDaniels is in right now. Like you said, going to a team that was pretty decent. And they played well, even in the storm that they were facing last year. We talked about it a lot, during, a couple of our quarterlies with the John Gruden situation and the Henry Ruggs situation and things of that nature. Just hits kept coming for this team, but they were able to stay together. And now you bring an offensive mind like McDaniels into the fold. Carr's a solid quarterback. You give him a great weapon who turns out to just be his college teammate, roommate, and best friend in Devontae Adams. I don't think you can get any better than that. I actually do think with the moves that they made, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, I think the Broncos can be set up for success as well. I think Nathaniel Hackett is going to a team that has a solid young defense, that has the pieces in the right place as long as everybody can stay healthy. I love Pat Surtain II. If Bradley Chubb can stay healthy and provide a solid and consistent pass rush for them. And then the offensive weapons that they already had a solid core of offensive weapons, especially in the wide receiver group. But then you add a Russell Wilson to that team, and that completely elevates you from a team with a new head coach who could possibly be rebuilding to a team, although in a tough division, that is slated to have some success. There's going to be some growing pains, new head coach, new quarterback, trying to get everybody on the same page and building chemistry. But I think outside of the obvious answers of Tampa and the Raiders, I think Denver is also another team that I will put on that list of could have early success just because of how that team is constructed.
Absolutely. And realistically, I mean, shoot, the Dolphins could have success. I mean, anytime you have somebody come off that Shanahan tree, talk about dysfunction. I mean, the Raiders had a lot of visible dysfunction throughout last season that we were able to tangibly see. But once the season ended, all the dysfunction that came out about the Dolphins was unbelievably crazy. And so just having some continuity, again, Tua's in a prove it year. So you've got McDaniel, who, I mean, essentially worked with the right-handed Tua for the last however many years, and Jimmy Garoppolo. And then you bring in a weapon like Tyreek Hill. They could as well. The problem with them is that I just think the AFC is too good. So even if they have quote unquote success, right, there's a record involved with that success. And are they a playoff team? I don't tend to think so. And so with that being said, the success may not be as obvious because they were borderline playoffs last year. They're probably borderline playoffs this year, but they're building something good for the future. And I think that's where the success comes in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So of the teams that we didn't mention, obviously New York, the Texans, the Bears, actually wouldn't put the Jags in this list. But which one of these head coaches do you think is going to have the toughest time in trying to find success? And it may be a slow burn, as we like to call it.
I personally think Brian Daboll has been the most overrated offensive coordinator in the league for the last 2 years. I said it after their playoff run, not last year, but the year before. I think in 3 playoff games, they had a total of 30 designed run plays in 3 playoff games. Josh Allen himself ran as much as the designed run plays for the running backs. I don't think he's that great of a play caller. I think he was bailed out by an unbelievable talent. I think he was bailed out by a really good quarterback coach. I just don't believe in Brian Daboll. And so the Giants are an absolute mess, as is. Daboll, I think, is overrated. And until he proves otherwise, I got to go with the Giants having colossal failures this year.
I would have to agree with that. I don't know if I can give him credit for the maturation of Josh Allen. I think you mentioned their quarterback coach, and I think Josh just had the will to succeed based off of how he was treated during his draft process, how he was treated when he was recruited out of high school with colleges, not wanting to bring him on as a quarterback. I do worry about Chicago and Matt Eberflus, and is Justin Fields the type of quarterback that he wants? Just from Fields is in that mold of a Patrick Mahomes, of a Josh Allen, of a Lamar Jackson. He's more of a mobile quarterback. He can throw. He definitely can prove. He proved that he can throw the rock. But does Matt Eberflus want a more traditional pocket passer? I don't know. And is his style of offense going to mesh well with Fields' style of offense? And will they be able to have success? I'm not saying that it can't happen, but I definitely want to see early on how those two build chemistry and how they figure out where they mesh together. You kind of understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's a fair thing to say. And again, when you've got a young quarterback, I personally would prefer to match him up with an offensive-minded head coach. That's just me. Now, I know that the NFL is funny like this. If you had a failure at your head coach, whatever they were, offensive or defensive minded, you usually go the opposite the next time around for whatever reason, right? Like, just pick the best coach based off of their leadership. Can we just do that regardless of what they are? And Eberflus might be that, right? But like I said, when you have a young quarterback, I prefer to pair them with an offensive minded guy just to get the best out of them early on. So, and we'll see. I mean, maybe the staff that he's put around Fields is really good, or maybe it doesn't matter because Fields is just really good. But that would be my concern with the Bears.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But it's going to be interesting to see what all of these guys are able to do as the head coach. I am excited for Mike McDaniel coming from San Francisco, having the opportunity to lead his own squad. You talked about some of the web. He has Tyreek Hill on one side and Jalen Waddle on the other. Like, if Mike McDaniel's mind is as intricate as Kyle has led on that it is, with those two guys in your offense, and then not to mention if Raheem Mostert can stay healthy, whether he's the starter or not. So you have 4.2 speed in your backfield and 4.2 speed on both outside wide receiver positions. If anything, he can have a lot of fun with some of the things that he schemes up. And I'm also excited to see what Doug Peterson is able to do in Jacksonville. I think he gets another shot at being a head coach. He won a Super Bowl in Philly. Some philosophical differences between him, the GM, the quarterback, how that situation ended in Philly. So I am excited to see what he's able to do in Jacksonville. This is another team last year we talked about with a lot of turmoil going on internally with the whole Urban Meyer situation and some of the things he was doing and not doing and how he was treating players. So now we have a team that got rid of that situation, brings in a new head coach, somebody who's fired up, ready to go. I want to see what he's able to do with a Trevor Lawrence. You talk about an offensive-minded guy, somebody who's actually played quarterback in this league, being able to take Trevor Lawrence under his wing. So I want to see what he's able to do in Jacksonville as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think no matter what, that situation is probably going to be a success because of how bad it was last year. It's crazy to me how many of these guys we just talked about the Bears position or head coaching spot and how you should hire for leadership. It's amazing to me how many of these spots were so bad from a leadership aspect and how often this happens at this level of football. It's kind of mind-boggling to think about. A guy that we didn't talk about, speaking of leadership, is Lovie Smith over with Houston. Now it sucks because he might be a lame duck type situation. They did not want to go that direction. It sounds like they wanted to go with somebody who was completely unproven. A little bit weird there. But Lovie Smith has been around the block, man. I mean, he's been a great defensive coach in this league for a long time. He's been a head coach himself. I just think that he's probably a pretty damn good leader. And whether he's there for a year or a couple years, I think that he can get, even though he's a defensive guy, I think he can give Davis Mills a really soft spot to land as far as just giving him the consistency that a young quarterback needs because he's been there and done that multiple times.
Absolutely. And when they played us in the preseason, a lot of talk from that Houston side was trying to get back to an old school mindset of football where we are going to run the ball and we're going to play defense. You know, they added pieces on the offensive line to be able to protect and run the ball successfully. They added pieces on the defense, and those young guys were flying around. Derek Stingley, Jalen Petrie, those guys were playing some really, really good football, albeit preseason. So I think, like you said, from a leadership standpoint, he's going to instill the work ethic and change the culture. Now, whether he's able to see that to fruition and stay there long term, 3, 4, 5 years and really build this program out, that's yet to be seen. And it would suck if he's only there for a year or two to kind of establish culture, and then you move him aside for a young hotshot head coach. But yeah, I like Lovie Smith a lot as a coach. As a player, I would play for him just because I know he's no nonsense. He's about his business, and he cares for what he does as a coach. He cares for his players. So that's amazing, man. I really do wish all these guys success until they play our 49ers. Moving on to offseason moves, man. There's been a lot of moves that have happened, too many to list and to go over. But just from what you've seen, what you've heard throughout these NFL streets, Give me what you may think would be the most significant off-season move and maybe the least significant off-season move that you've seen so far.
So this is going to shed some light into who I think is going to win one of these divisions that we're going to talk about here in a little bit. But last year, before the season started, I was very bold in saying that this would be the last year that the Chiefs win the AFC West. And this was before this team went out and added multiple big pieces to put them, in my opinion, head and shoulders above the rest of the AFC West. That is everything that the Chargers did, from adding Jackson, Mack. I mean, they went and added some fat daddies up the middle to help stop the running game. Derwin James is coming back healthy. Herbert's in year 3, which is when players take the biggest leap usually. And that's incredible to say because this kid has put up the 2 best years that we may have ever seen out of a first and second year quarterback. Unbelievable team. And I think that team is primed to break out. So I'm going to say the most significant moves are the ones made by the Chargers, anything that they did. Least significant, I'm going to go with the Rams. Everybody's talking about the Rams. Defending Super Bowl champions. Added Bobby Wagner. Added Allen Robinson. But everybody's forgetting that they got weaker in the trenches on both sides of the ball. They lost their left tackle, who's been anchoring that side of the line for a very, very long time, and Andrew Whitworth, he retired. They lost Von Miller. Keep in mind that the Rams already didn't put pressure at the same level that the 49ers did on the quarterback. If you look at last season, and that was with Von Miller. Now you take away Von Miller and you add in Bobby Wagner, which is great. I think it'll help their run defense, but that's not going to help them get after the quarterback. Bobby Wagner isn't the same Bobby Wagner he was when he was young. And then let's go to the other side of the ball. Allen Robinson, very, very good receiver. I've liked Allen Robinson for a long, long time. But is he that much better than what you started the season with in Robert Woods or what you ended the season with in OBJ? To me, it's basically a wash. So Allen Robinson might be a slight upgrade, but it's probably a wash. Bobby Wagner certainly doesn't make up for the loss of a Von Miller, in my opinion. And you lost your left tackle. I think the Rams additions are the least significant of any of the teams in what they did this offseason.
Those are 2 really good ones. 2 really, really good choices. I'm going to say for my most significant, that's pretty tough. I could go Denver because obviously you go from Denver hasn't had a lot of luck after Peyton Manning from the quarterback position. So you immediately upgrade from Drew Lock to Russell Wilson. So that's significant because you're in a division where, like you said, everybody's made upgrades. The Chargers and what they did, you got them as your most significant. You look at what we talked about, what the Raiders did, not only bringing in Josh McDaniels, but being able to add Devontae Adams to an offense that now looks like it's stacked with Hunter Renfrow and Darren Waller. The Chiefs are the Chiefs. You know, they may have lost Tyreek Hill, but they still have Patty Mahomes. They still have Travis Kelce. You bring in Juju Smith-Schuster. You add in some pieces on the defensive side of the ball. So the AFC West right now might be the strongest division in football.
Yeah.
And it might not be a might. They are the strongest division in football, at least on paper. So in order to stay afloat in that division, if you're Denver, you had to do something of significance. And that is going out and getting you a quarterback like Russell Wilson. And as annoying as he may be to some people because he looks like the golden boy, the poster child, you know, as soon as the as soon as the trade happens, he's on a flight to Denver. He's working out. He's getting the receivers together. He's doing all the leadership type things that you want to see from your quarterback. But that is who Russell Wilson is. That is why Seattle has been so successful for so long with him at the quarterback. That's why he was able to come in as a rookie and start, because of the leadership qualities that he brings. So he immediately changes the trajectory of the Denver Broncos season just by being in the building. But now you add the pieces that they have on offense and defense, and now they could contend. It's going to be very, very tough. But one of the things that they have, to their advantage is that altitude. When teams come to play in Denver, it's a little bit different. So that is one advantage that they have. As far as least significant move, what I had one least significant move. Now it's escaping me. I just had it. You went with the Rams. Let me see.
That one was a tough one for me. Like, I was trying to go through.
I know what it is.
Yeah.
I see it, and it's two teams that added quarterbacks.
Okay.
Shout out to Amin. He says, "What's up, Jessie and Mose? Appreciate you
What
for
up,
jumping
Amin?
in." Melissa, our sister Jessie on What Mose Knows. Let's go. NJ in Florida. Badass matchup. Yes, it is. Appreciate you for chiming in. Two situations that I feel like probably are the least significant. Maybe one less significant than the other. Both quarterback situations. I'm not sold on Carson Wentz in Washington.
All right.
I'm not sold on Carson Wentz to Washington. It seems like everywhere Carson has been, there has been questions about his character and his leadership in the quarterback position. We talk about the difference between leadership. We talk about a Russell Wilson who it's his proven leadership everywhere he goes. And then you talk about Carson Wentz on the opposite end of the spectrum, where he had issues in Philadelphia. And now it came out that he was having issues in Indianapolis as well. So maybe third time's a charm. But then also, I'm not sold on him and his maturation as a quarterback with his decision-making on the field. So you go to a Washington Commanders team that has a few weapons. Offensive line to me is still a little bit shaky. Don't really know what we're going to do in the running back room. Antonio Gibson was the starter, but he can't hold on to the ball. So now maybe Brian Robinson, the rookie from Alabama, is your starter at running back. So there's a little bit of indecisiveness there. I'm not sold on him being able to lead this team, even in a weak division. I think Philly got stronger. I think Dallas is going to Dallas. And then we already know the Giants are probably the weakest team in the division, right? But if the only team that you can beat in your division is the Giants, that doesn't say much for me. The other team that I feel like maybe it's a least significant move, just because, again, I think there's too much indecisiveness for me. Carolina in trading for Baker Mayfield. I think obviously Baker needed to get out of Cleveland. And maybe Carolina is a good landing spot for him. It's a good running back in Christian McCaffrey if he can stay healthy. Good weapons on the outside and Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore. Defense in Carolina is pretty solid. That's one of the young defenses that I really, really like in this league. Brian Burns, J.C. Horn, Jeremy Chin, Shaq Thompson, C.J. Henderson, if he can, get it together. I really like this defense. Y'all are young pieces. They play hard. They play fast. I'm excited for them. But I don't know if Baker moves the needle, and it may not be a Baker thing. It may be a Matt Rule thing. You're still carrying Sam Darnold and his $18 million, and you got Baker. I don't know if that moves the needle for me. So for me, those two moves are probably the least significant as far as, are they really going to change the outlook for both of these teams? If so, not by much.
It's funny that you bring up Carson Wentz, because I feel like him and Jimmy Garoppolo are in the same tier of quarterback, but for much different reasons. Like, if you could match them up and just make them one quarterback, give Carson Wentz skill set and Jimmy Garoppolo temperament and just make that one player, you'd have a top 10 quarterback in this league. No question about it.
Without a
Maybe
doubt.
even top 5 because Carson Wentz is uber talented. He just is missing something mentally. And then you look at Jimmy Garoppolo, who doesn't have that talent, but he is known as a great leader, a great teammate. Everybody loves him. If they could just make one quarterback, that would be fantastic. But you're right. I mean, both those guys that you mentioned, I think Mayfield is similar to Carson. There's something missing mentally, but for different reasons, right? Like Carson, it comes down to his decision making on the field, like when to go all in, when not to. I mean, this is a guy who basically ruined his career before it got started because he was willing to keep going on an ACL that he just tore. I mean, he'd put his body on the line for anything, but that's not a good way to have longevity in this league. And then you got Baker, who thinks he's the best thing since sliced bread and tells everybody about it, yet nobody seems to like him. It's just interesting how you can be good in this league or how you can be bad in this league. And both of those guys, mentally, something is missing from their game. And, you know, I agree. I don't think either one of them is a major significant move for those reasons. I like it.
Absolutely. With a new season comes new players, both in free agency and in the draft. Give me your draft winners and losers. Who did you feel like had a really, really solid draft this past April?
So there are multiple teams, you know, and I think right after the draft, 2 teams that were mentioned were the Ravens and the Jets for obvious reasons, right? They added a ton of talent, did a fantastic job with their picks. The Jets had a bunch of early picks and were able to just make the best out of it. Plus adding a guy like Breece Hall in the second round, I thought was incredible. But a team that I don't think a lot of people talked about, but it's starting to show early already is the Texans. We just talked about them with their head coaching change. They added Stingley. They added Petrie. Mechie isn't going to be able to play early, unfortunately, because of his injury from last year, but I think he can be a future something, you know, decent in this league. And Damien Pierce has come out of nowhere and taken the preseason by storm. There's always one. He seems to be that guy. That's exactly what they needed. They needed a good running back there to kind of help take the pressure off of a Davis Mills. And I think, you know, again, the Ravens and Jets were some obvious ones. Everybody talked about their drafts afterwards, but the Texans slowly have become a favorite of mine with the players that they took and what we've seen from them already in this league.
Absolutely. Can't forget to mention Kenyon Green, the offensive guard that they drafted. He's going to start day one next to Laramie Tunsil at that left guard position. So, yeah, they absolutely great draft. Ravens, for me, was my favorite draft. Obviously, yeah, they're one of the top teams mentioned, but you just look at how the board fell for them. Like, it was absolutely incredible. They stood pat and got Kyle Hamilton to fall to them at 14. Everybody had Kyle Hamilton top 5 or top 3 off the board just because of his measurables, height, weight, speed kind of guy, flying all around the field. For them to stand pat at 14 and really go by the model best player available on the board, and not only to be able to get him, but then also to pick up Tyler Linderbaum. He seems like the quintessential Ravens draft pick. Hard-nosed, tough player. Throw him on the offensive line. He's going to be there for the next 10 to 12 years. I absolutely fell in love with their draft. And another team being in the area that I'm in, you know, on the East Coast in Jersey, I'm around a lot of New York Giants fans. And I had Giants fans who were so pessimistic, like, oh, it's the NFL draft. Just tell me about it when it's over. I mean, severe pessimism at its finest. And the Giants didn't screw it up this time. They took Kayvon Thibodeau. They were able to stay pat and then get Evan Neal. So they fixed their, their trench issues, got an offensive lineman, got a defensive lineman. They were able to pick up additional picks throughout the rest of the draft. They didn't flub this up this time. So, if there's one positive that we can give to Brian Daboll is, him and, his GM and the front office staff, they put together a solid plan and they didn't flub up this draft. So I appreciate what the Giants did this time, and I'm sure the Giants fans do too.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. They didn't completely screw it up. We'll see how it plays out overall, but early on it does look like a pretty decent draft, and that's good for Giants fans. They need something over there.
Right. They need something to lean on. Do you think that preseason block on Kayvon Thibodeau was dirty, or you think it was a clean play?
Man, I think by the letter of the law, it probably wasn't dirty, right? Like if you listen to offensive and even defensive linemen talk about it, but it's just another reason why professional players hate preseason, right? Like that's the exact scenario that everybody thinks about when they think of why they don't like preseason football, especially veterans. So yeah, tough break for sure. But I don't think it was dirty by the letter of the law, unfortunately.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's just unfortunate for a young player trying to make his name and himself in the league, and unfortunate for the offensive player who also is trying to make a name for himself and trying to, play hard every rep that he gets, because these reps are not guaranteed, and he's trying to make a team, and he's trying to set a good block. As like you said, offensive and defensive players said that wasn't a dirty play at all, but just an unfortunate situation all around.
And then I think Ojulari got hurt again for him too. It's like, dude, are you kidding me? What is going on?
And that's both their outside pass rushers that they're expecting a lot from in year 1 and year 2. So yeah, hopefully those aren't long-term injuries, and those guys can come back healthy and try to make some noise for that Giants defense. Let's take a look at some of the outlooks for each of these divisions. I think some we can spend less time on than the others. We talked about the AFC West. I feel like that's going to be a dogfight. I do agree with you in your assessment that the Chargers are doing everything they can to make sure that they are the top dog in that division. But that's going to be those are going to be some really, really hard fought battles in that division. We're going to go same geographical location back and forth with both AFC and NFC. So move over to the NFC West, a division that we're very, very familiar with. Just give me a quick outlook on what you're seeing for that division.
Yeah, I think, it's crazy because the NFC West has been the staple division for many years. And now you've got Seattle taking a major step back and losing Russell Wilson. Might be one of the worst teams in the league, just because the quarterback position is so damn bad. And then you've got a potential dumpster fire in Arizona. Again, a lot of talent, but Hopkins is out the first 6 weeks. Very tough schedule to start. Kingsbury is just not it as far as a head coach goes. I mean, same problem every single year. Starts out strong, finishes poorly. Now this year they might just start poorly and finish poorly. And then you've got basically the defending Super Bowl champs, the runner-up in the NFC. 2 years ago, they were also in the Super Bowl themselves in the 49ers. And I think it's completely a two-team race. I could see a scenario. In fact, I do see a scenario where they both finish with the same record and the tiebreaker ends up in San Francisco, just because some of those NFC games that the Rams have to play for being division winners that the 49ers don't, I think is going to be the difference maker and what ends things here. So I think that it's a tight race. I think both those teams will probably split with each other because it is so close. And then ultimately the 49ers do win that division, but with the same record as the Rams. I think they both finish 11-6.
Yeah, I have our Niners anywhere between 10-7 and 12-5, just depending on how we show up each week. I think it is very possible that we win this division. I also agree this is a two-team race in this division. Arizona can be sneaky. They proved that to us last year, even being able to beat us with Colt McCoy at quarterback. That I'm not remembering that incorrectly. Colt McCoy was the quarterback of
Yeah,
that.
Colt. Yeah.
Yeah, and James Conner just ran all over us, and yeah, they can be sneaky,
They
but
can.
I definitely think it's a two-team race. Let's move over to the East Coast. Let's start in the AFC West, which I think this is the Bills division. No question. I think the Patriots could make some noise. I think the Dolphins could possibly, but I think this is the Bills division to lose. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I personally think Josh Allen is the best quarterback in football. I think the Bears are, excuse me, the Bills are super talented. Now, White's going to be out a couple weeks, Tre'Davious White, and I think that's a
Yeah.
big loss. It may result. We'll see. Thursday night's going to be interesting. They didn't play a lot of their players throughout the preseason, so maybe they start off a little sluggish. New offensive coordinator. Tre'Davious White's a really, really good player. He's going to miss a significant game here early on, but I think the Bills are just head and shoulders above the rest of the AFC East, enough to where even if they slip early on, it won't be enough for them to lose the division. I agree with you. I think it's the Bills division. I would probably go Bills, Dolphins, Patriots, Jets in that order. Dolphins and Patriots probably are both 8-9 or 9-8 ish. And then the Bills are probably a 12 or 13 win team, man. They're really, really good this year.
Absolutely. NFC East. I think like the NFC West, this is a two-team race. I think we already know where the Giants sit. I think they mirror the Seahawks. I think the Commanders mirror the Cardinals. Maybe on a lower level than that a little bit, just because, like I said, again, I don't trust Carson Wentz. And then you have the Cowboys and the Eagles. As much as it pains me to say this, Jesse, living on the East Coast, working in the city of Philadelphia every day, family members who are Eagles fans, and never let me forget it. As much as it pains me to say this, and this is live and this is going to live on YouTube, I think the Eagles win this division. And I think they win this division, maybe not convincingly, but it won't be as difficult to win this division as people may think. I don't think Dallas puts up much of a fight. I still think they're trying to figure out what they're going to do on defense. I think teams are going to figure out how to attack Trayvon Diggs a little bit better, to where he doesn't have as many interceptions and can affect games like he did. I think teams are going to figure out how to maybe block Micah Parsons a little bit better now that they have a year's worth of film on him. On the offensive side, I don't know if I trust Zeke. We'll have to see what CeeDee Lamb is able to do now as the number one without Amari Cooper drawing coverage away from him. I think Dak Prescott is a solid quarterback in this league. I think he's in the top half of the league. But, you know, I don't see Dallas being as formidable as Cowboys fans think they will be. So I do think this is the Eagles division. It's a two-team race, but I do think the Eagles take it, unfortunately for myself.
I'm so with you. I think it's a one-team race. I think it's Philly and Philly. Like, they're so much better than any team in this division. They really don't have a weakness. They're a run-first team. They added a hell of a weapon in A.J. Brown, who I absolutely love. Did a fantastic job in the draft, adding Davis and Dean. And anytime you can cut guys like Jaquiski Tart and Anthony Harris from your team, how stacked are you? Because you go and trade for Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. I mean, this team is prime. And I think probably is a top 3 team in the NFC, and they might not be number 3. Like, they are a really, really good team, I think, this year. The only question is Hurts, right? But when you're a run-first team and you've got weapons around them like they do, going into year 3, I think he makes enough of a leap And I just think the Eagles are probably in that division, probably a 12-win team. And I don't see Dallas getting more than 10. So
Listen, for as much as people talk about the different quarterbacks, I don't understand why Jalen Hurts gets as much flack as he does.
mhm.
I think the situations in Philadelphia were a little bit up in the air, and then you bring in a Nick Sirianni, who is maybe a little bit unproven as a head coach, but he comes in and then they blow the situation up with Carson Wentz, and they go with Jalen Hurts, and every year you've seen a bit of progression. It may not have been, major leaps in his game, but you've seen him improve. He was able to get them into the playoffs last year with lack of weapons. Their running backs were injured, injuries all across the offensive line. I believe Lane Johnson, took some personal time away for his mental health for a little bit last year. Outside of Devontae Smith, no other real receivers that this team can rely on. Now you bring a bona fide number one in A.J. Brown over, who's going to draw coverage away from Devontae Smith, who we know is a burner. I think the addition of Trey Sermon, as much as I didn't like him in San Fran, I think
Mhm.
with the way Philly is going to run the ball, I think the addition of Trey
Perfect.
Sermon is a sneaky addition that not a lot of people are going to talk about early on. But as the season goes on and they see what he adds to that offense, is going to be great. Then you already have your guys on the outside. I think Dallas Goedert is going to continue to feast over the middle because teams are going to be worried about what those weapons on the outside are going to do. I think Jalen Hurts is going to have a really, really good year. And with the additions on the defensive side of the ball, you added James Bradbury, you added Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. I think bringing back Fletcher Cox and having Jordan Davis learn under his leadership and his veteran play, and having those two guys play next to each other
Talk
on the
about a
interior,
nightmare.
nobody's going to be able to run the ball against Philly. And I just told my dad this the other. I said, Dad, Philly's probably going to have a top three, possibly number one rush defense in the league. Who's running the ball up the middle against this team?
That's the one team that scares me the most out of all the NFC matchups for the 49ers. The one team. The only reason that I think the 49ers can beat them when it comes to head in the playoffs is Trey Lance having a full season under his belt and being a difference maker. I think he's a guy that can actually go out and win you games come playoff time. And I think he's that talented. I just think he's going to be a much better player than Hurts when it's all said and done. And I think that'll by week 18, we'll be able to see who the clear better quarterback is. But the 49ers are going to struggle to run the ball if they have to face that team. So that's the one team that I'm like, yeah, Philly. Yeah, that's a tough matchup.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, let's go to the AFC North. Another really, really solid division in this league. We got the Bengals, we got the Browns, who they won't be significant until week 12, week 13.
Yeah.
And by that time, they may be out of it. The Steelers, who always seem to hang around no matter what the situation is. And then the Ravens, who we talked about having a good draft. Lamar Jackson is kind of in a contract situation, but he doesn't seem like he's going to let that affect his play this year. He's added some muscle mass to his frame, checking in at 230 pounds to be able to withstand some of the wear and tear of the season. They get J.K. Dobbins back. They get Marcus Peters on the defensive side of the ball back. Added some key additions throughout that team. So I like Baltimore in this division just because they're always a pretty good team. I don't know if the Bengals continue to elevate and take that next step. Again, we know the Browns, with their quarterback situation. And while the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be a good team, I don't think Mitchell Trubisky moves the needle enough. So I like the Ravens in the AFC North. What do you say?
Again, I mean, we seem to be on the same page, lockstep here. I agree with you. It's crazy to me the hate that Lamar Jackson gets because you're talking about a former MVP of this league. he doesn't throw for a ton of yards, right? And I do understand that a quarterback of his style has never won a Super Bowl. And until he does, right, like that's always going to be the mark against him is that type of quarterback can't win a Super Bowl. But he's really, really good. I have him, in my opinion, he's the 5th best quarterback in the league. I think Herbert's on his heels and probably passes him this year, but that, that could go either way. I think Lamar Jackson's really, really good. Very good. I think that team is very good. I think Bateman is poised to break out. The defense is incredible. Is getting all their pieces back. And even if Lamar goes down, Huntley's a pretty damn good backup, right? He's that same exact style. So if you go from Lamar, you go to a poor man's Lamar right behind him. And so I think they can stay afloat if something even happened to Lamar. It's unfortunate what's going on with the contract situation. I hope they get it figured out for their sake. But yeah, man, also we got to talk about this. Teams that lose the Super Bowl that are not led by Tom Brady struggle mightily when they lose the Super Bowl the next year. I don't think the Bengals will be that team, but Burrow was a guy who the book really wasn't out on him in year 2. Like it is for most quarterbacks. Usually what you see from a young quarterback is a lot of times they'll hit the scene on fire. And then in year 2, they might even take a slight step back because teams have figured them out. And then in year 3, it's like, this is who they are. Year 3 for him is a little bit different. I think he could take a slight step back because teams have figured him out a little bit. They know what his MO is, and they can put together game plans. I think they've done a good job of beefing up that offensive line around him to help protect him. But I don't think they're going to win a division. And again, that was a team that I think only won 10 games last year, if I'm not mistaken. Their season could have gone either way. They had some bad losses to teams that they shouldn't have lost to. A lot of close games. It's going to be tough for them. They're the hunted now. So I'm curious to see what they do. I still think they finish second in that division, probably make the playoffs. But if they didn't make the playoffs, or if they don't make the playoffs, I wouldn't be shocked. So we'll see how that plays out.
Absolutely agree. Moving to the NFC North, Packers, Lions, Vikings, Bears. Got a question from Raphael. He says, do the Lions win more than 7 games? What is your outlook on this AFC North? I know you're very familiar with the Detroit Lions and your co-host on Last Second Sports. So give me your thoughts on the NFC North.
Yeah, I think the Lions are probably the 3rd best team in that division. I could see them anywhere from 6 to 9 wins, realistically. So I'll be nice to my co-host. I'll say they get more than 7. I think they finish at 8. But I think that they're the 3rd best team in that division. I think the Bears are clearly the worst team in that division. And then it comes down to the Vikings and the Packers. I think the Vikings make it to the playoffs. I really do. But I don't think that they're ready to unseed the Packers or take over their position. I know that Davante Adams is not on this team anymore for the Packers. That defense is really, really good. I think that run game is really good. Aaron Rodgers, the last couple of years, has kind of given in to the game plan that LaFleur wants to run. And that is a run-first team. Even though they have a two-time back-to-back league MVP in Aaron Rodgers, that is a run-first team. That is a defensive team. And Aaron Rodgers just kind of manning the ship. It doesn't get better than that. So I think that early on it might be interesting because those rookie wide receivers have to get up to speed. They might even lose to Minnesota week 1 because of that. That being said, I just think the Packers ultimately are the best team in that division. I think long-term, losing Adams might be an addition by subtraction. Hear me out on this. I know he's the best receiver in football, arguably, but Aaron Rodgers seemed to just lock in on him. And not only that, come playoff time, LaFleur seemed to lock in on him. He was the first read every single play in and play out. And when teams would bracket him, it just didn't seem like they ever had an answer or a backup plan to that. Now they're forced to game plan without him, and I think that might do them better because of that. The Packers are still the cream of the crop when it comes to the NFC North. They will win that division. I think the Vikings are close. I think they make the playoffs. And then the Lions win 8 games, and the Bears are probably a 4 or 5 win team.
I agree. I think the Vikings have a chance to make the playoffs. I don't think they're ready yet. Defensively, I think Harrison Smith is starting to regress just because he's getting up there in age. I don't like their cornerback situation. And to me, they only have one solid pass rusher in Danielle Hunter, where later on in the league, that pass rush and that coverage, we always talk about them being complementary. Green Bay has that. They have shutdown corners on the outside. Their safeties are really good. And you got Preston Smith and Rashawn Gary coming off the edge. Rashawn Gary is really taking that next step. And I think this year we might even see a little bit more of a leap from him. So I think defensively, absolutely is going to be, the Packers' way to entry into the playoffs, into the tournament, and then possibly, going deep into the tournament just because they have that defense. And Aaron Rodgers is going to be Aaron Rodgers. So I think we pretty much have a feel on where we're going with that division. All right, last 2 divisions, and we got a couple more topics before we can wrap it up. Let's go to the AFC South. Maybe possibly one of the weakest divisions. I mean, you got Tennessee, who's decent. Indianapolis might not be as bad as people think, with the addition of Matt Ryan. You got Jonathan Taylor. Obviously, you have the Texans, and then you have the Jaguars. What are your thoughts on this division?
Yeah, I think you're going to see the Jaguars take a step forward. I think you're going to see the Titans take a big step back. I think the Colts run away with this division. I really do. And they may only win 10 games doing so. That's the crazy part. Matt Ryan is certainly an upgrade over Wentz. Again, probably not from a talent standpoint, but just from a mental standpoint, he certainly is. They have the best running back in the league probably right now in Taylor. And I think that they're going to win that division. They're head and shoulders above the rest of that division. I think they're the only team that makes the playoffs out of that division. And the Titans are going to finish second, but I think they're probably an 8-9 team is realistically where they're at. I do not trust Tannehill whatsoever. We'll see if Henry regained that explosiveness, but when you can just stack the box and force him to run the ball against 9-man fronts on a regular basis, good luck. So to me, I just think Tennessee is a team that is a prime candidate to take a major step back this year.
Yeah, I mean, they don't have the weapons on the outside anymore that would keep teams from stacking the box. A.J. Brown is gone. And as explosive as he was in college, I don't think in the NFL, Treylon Burks has gained that cachet to where teams say, let's not stack the box because he can kill us. And
I do like Robert Woods. I will say this. I do like Robert Woods, but he's coming off of a major injury. So we'll see how that plays out.
So we have to see how that plays out. The only thing that I will say in Tannehill's defense, I'm going to shoot him a little bit of bail here, but it all depends on how he plays it from a mental standpoint. I want to see if the drafting of Malik Willis lit a fire under him. If he just comes in with a new energy that says, I have to play better than I've ever played before because this young guy is nipping at my heels and he wants to take this job. And everything in this organization is saying at some point, give this young kid this job. So maybe that lights a fire under him and we see a different Ryan Tannehill, even if it's for a season. But I want to see if maybe that did something, because it can either go one of two ways. It can either light a fire under him and make him play better, or it's going to be something that is playing over and over in his head and he makes a lot of mistakes, which then forces him out and they eventually go to the young guy. So I do think the Colts, I think with Matt Ryan, they have a solid leader, someone who could still pass the rock. Obviously, they're going to run the ball. I do love Frank Reich as a head coach. I think he's a great play caller. He makes great adjustments at halftime. So I could definitely see them running away with this division. And lastly, the NFC South, Buccaneers, Falcons, Saints, and Panthers. Obviously, I got the Bucks. I don't think Atlanta is ready. Marcus Mariota isn't the answer. He's probably going to be supplanted by Desmond Ridder at some point this season. The Saints, I love their defense. Dennis Allen has been there. He's been in the system. He knows the culture. I still don't trust Jameis Winston. Carolina, love their young defense. Don't trust Baker Mayfield. I think this is the Bucs division hands down.
You know what? Up until a few days ago, I would have agreed with you, and I thought the Bucs were the best team clear-cut in the NFC, and maybe they still are. Maybe I'm reading into this situation way too much, but if the rumors are true and Tom Brady is having some marital issues, that is at his age, right? Got to weigh on you extremely, extremely tough, right? And it does sound like it was possibly a family decision there to hang it up. He decided not to do so. And the writing's kind of been on the wall there that there might be some lingering issues. If you listen to some of his old interviews, even back with the Patriots, he would talk about how he needed to do a better job of balancing his career with being a father and a husband. That isn't something that a man, I'm sorry, comes up with on his own. That's something his wife tells him he needs to do. And the fact that he just was gone for 11 days, came back looking tattered as all get out, tells me there might have been some arguments to be had with the wifey. We'll see. Maybe it's just rumor. Maybe it's not. The Saints seem to have their number as well. They beat them just like the Seahawks beat the 49ers or the Arizona Cardinals have had the 49ers number as of late. The Saints, when they are not the better at all, tend to beat the Buccaneers every single time out. And I think the gap has closed enough to where those two wins, if they go and get them this year, are enough to win that division. I'm going to pick the upset here. I'm going to pick the Saints to win that division. I agree with you. I don't trust Jameis Winston a whole lot, but there are a lot of weapons around him. A lot of weapons around him. They got Olave. Thomas is coming back. They went and got Landry. They've got Kamara. Good offensive line. I know they lost Armstead. That's a big loss, but they, still a very good offensive line. A hell of a defense. I think this is the Saints division. I'm going to pick the upset here. I think the Saints win that division, much like the 49ers do with the same record as the Bucs, but they will have the tiebreaker.
Nice. Okay. I like it. We got Thursday night football coming up, Jesse. Again, start of the season. I know you're doing a watch party. I might have to tune into that, of course.
Definitely.
Jump in and hop in with you guys for a little bit. What are you looking for from either one of these teams? They say that this is a potential Super Bowl preview between the Bills and the Rams. What are you looking for on Thursday night as the season gets kicked off?
I do think it's a half Super Bowl preview because I think the Buffalo Bills certainly are making the Super Bowl this year. I think their team is just absolutely poised. But I could see them losing this game, right? Like it's a big deal. First of all, the Rams are at home. They are the defending Super Bowl champs. They're going to get the rings, the ceremony, the whole thing. And Tre'Davious White is not playing in this game. I could see the Rams winning this game for sure. I think Buffalo does ultimately win it, but I won't be surprised if it goes the other way. For me, I'm just happy that football's back, man. And we get to see, and like I said, in my opinion, early on, Josh Allen is the best in the business right now. We get to see that to start the season off. It doesn't get much better than that. I'm excited for football to be here. So I'm hoping that the Rams lose. I'll be rooting tough for Buffalo just because that would be a great way to start the season, to see the Rams lose and then the 49ers win in week 1 and already have a 1-game lead. I would love nothing more than that. So that's what I'll be looking for on Thursday. Can the Rams lose and give the 49ers the early lead in the division to make my prediction even more ironclad?
Absolutely. Week 1 storyline. So outside of the Thursday night game, we got Saints at Falcons, Browns at Panthers, Niners at Bears, which I will be in attendance. Steelers
Nice.
at Bengals, Eagles at Lions, Colts at the Texans, Patriots at the Dolphins, Ravens at Jets, Jags at Commanders, Giants at Titans, Chiefs at Cardinals, Raiders at Chargers, good game. Packers at Vikings, Bucks at Cowboys, and Monday night, Russell Wilson returns to the Seattle Seahawks as the Broncos take on the Seahawks. So, week 1 storylines. What are you looking for? Something you may want to keep your eye out for, or we may want to keep an eye out for in week 1.
Well, I'll say this. I mean, anytime you have a division game and there are multiple, you definitely want to look out for that because that could ultimately decide things late in the season. I hate that they do division games in week 1. I really hate that. I think they should do away with that completely because divisions can be won or lost by 1 game. And early on, teams are just not at their best. And so, some teams start off. A great example of this last year, you remember week 1, the way the Packers looked against the Saints?
Yep.
How ugly that was, how Aaron Rodgers just looked shot. And then he came out and won the league MVP. And you just never know what's going to happen week 1. Anything can happen week 1. I hate that they do that, but you have to pay attention to those division games. I think the 3 biggest storylines, though, are 1, certainly Russ returning to Seattle. That's big. He's going to want to stick it to him and probably will. Baker playing against the Browns in week 1 is certainly fun to watch. I mean, they kicked him to the curb, and then the guy that they replaced him with doesn't even get to play. That's pretty interesting. And then just as a 49er fan, this may not be big nationally, but in the community, Lance and Fields is forever going to be a thing. A majority of this community wanted Fields. I know I wanted Lance, but they're always going to be tied at the hip in this community. So every time that they play, it's going to be talked about. And so, that's something I'm looking forward to. Fields might come out and look really good. The 49ers still win. And then everybody's going to be talking about how the 49ers flubbed the pick and should have went with Fields and blah, blah, blah. That's those are the things that can come out of this game. So those are the 3 games that I'm looking forward to. And they really all center around the quarterback position.
Absolutely. I agree with that. I love, I actually do like the division matchups early on because it gives players a reason to show up.
Yeah, that's true.
Like we're week 1, we're starting off. We got a division match. We got to bring our A game, because it's the beginning of the season. Guys are trying to feel their way. They're trying to get into mid-season form, as they talk about.
For sure.
So I think for me, I like division games because you get to see guys kind of step it up a little bit earlier. So I'm definitely watching that Raiders-Chargers matchup because that AFC West division, I think, is going to be heads and shoulders above the rest. So that's going to be a tough division.
JC Jackson might be back too.
He might be back.
He's trending towards playing. It sounds like that's huge.
So that's to me, that's going to be a good matchup to watch. And you mentioned Aaron Rodgers and the way he looked. I do want to see the top quarterbacks in this league. I want to see the Patrick Mahomes, the Josh Allens, the Joe Burrows, the Justin Herberts. I want to see those guys come out and play well week 1. I want to see them be the top 4 or 5 guys that we know them to be in this league, and to get their team started off in the right direction. And obviously, if they don't, that would be a storyline as well because, you come out flat week 1, you put your team behind the 8 ball with an 0-1 start. So I definitely want to see, that the upper echelon quarterbacks, how they start for their teams and setting the tempo for the season. Let's do some season predictions, Jesse.
Do it.
And we can get on out of here, and we will see each other again in 4 weeks. So let's just revisit it. Division winners. So NFC West,
49ers,
NFC East,
Philly,
NFC North,
Packers,
and South. You called the Saints, right?
Saints, yeah.
Okay. So I'm going Niners, Eagles, Packers. I'll go Tampa. AFC West.
AFC West, Chargers.
I got Chargers too. North.
North is going to be the Ravens.
South.
Colts.
And East.
Bills.
So I think we're lock and step except for one.
Yes, sir.
So you got Saints. I got the Buccaneers. Early season prediction. Offensive player of the year.
Offensive player of the year. I'm going to go with Dalvin Cook.
Ooh.
I think he's in a breakout big in that offense. Again, they went and hired an offensive coach. They've got an underrated quarterback and great weapons on the outside. It's tough. I mean, he faces favorable boxes because of that, and he can catch out of the backfield. Really, the biggest question mark for him is health. As long as he can stay healthy, I think that he wins Offensive Player of the Year.
I don't want to go quarterback, but I think going back to something that you said, we've already seen probably the best rookie and sophomore season from a quarterback that we may have seen in history. I think in year 3, especially with the additions on the defense, that is going to give him more opportunities to possess the football. I think we see another leap for Jay Herbert, one of my favorite players in the game. I think Justin Herbert could win Offensive Player of the Year just because of the sheer volume of numbers that he's going to be able to put up. So I'm going to go with Justin Herbert. Who do you have for Defensive Player of the Year?
Oh, we're keeping that one in-house. Nick Bosa's winning that. He's going to put up 20-plus sacks. You know, it's funny because last year I kept it in-house as well. I picked Fred Warner. And the reason that I picked Fred Warner was because I thought that the 49ers would run a lot of cover one. That was something that I really felt DeMeco Ryans wanted to do. Unfortunately, they had an injury early to Verrett, and that just derailed everything. They went back to more of a zone coverage team, and that put Fred Warner in some interesting spots. I think he has another really good or does have a really good year because of cover one, but I just think Bosa, now you give him a secondary that can cover. I think third downs are going to be a nightmare for quarterbacks all season long. And you've got some good running mates along that defensive line. It's going to be tough to double team him. I think Bosa's going for 20-plus sacks, and he's going to win Defensive Player of the Year.
And I think he might be upset that last year he didn't get comeback player. I think he might be a little bit upset that he didn't get that. Offensive Rookie of the Year.
Man. God, this one's tough. You know, it's crazy because normally you'd give it to quarterback, but none of those guys are going to get significant playing time, right? So you can't go quarterback. So, the receivers rely too much on the quarterback. So I'm hard pressed to go with the receiver. And I don't see a Jamar Chase type season, right? Like that's really, really hard to duplicate. You know what? I'm going to go with Pierce. I think he's going to be the bell cow over with the Texans. Again, you know, I think like a 4th round pick, but he's already caught the league a little bit by storm. That's a team that does want to run the ball a ton. I could see Breece Hall winning it as well, but I'm gonna go with a little bit of a dark horse. I'm gonna go with Pierce and the Houston Texans to win that.
I'm going Breece.
Yeah.
I'm going Breece. I think obviously the running back position is being devalued because he was able to drop into the 2nd round. But I think what he's going to add to that offense, and again, we have a LaFleur that is running that offense. I think he's going to be able to do a lot of good things. I think the offensive line, still some issues at that left tackle spot, but I think Laken Tomlinson added, some solid veteran leadership to that middle. Elijah Vera Tucker is getting another year in the system. I think they'll be able to run the ball. So I'm going to give that to Brees. Defensive Rookie of the Year, I'm going to say the Jets sweep this category.
Oh,
Sweep the rookie awards with both the offense and defensive Rookie of the Year. And I'm going Sauce Gardner. I think Sauce has an opportunity to win defensive Rookie of the Year. I think he's that good of a corner. And I think with the Jets with the Jets not being a really good team right now, and the fact that he might be on the field a lot, I think it'll be more opportunity to show how good of a corner he actually is. And if the Jets do get beat, it won't be on his side. It'll be whoever's on the other side. So I think the Jets rookie sweep the categories. I'm going to give defensive Rookie of the Year to Sauce Gardner.
I like the Sauce Gardner pick. My only pushback is he's got to face Josh Allen twice a year.
Yeah.
And Josh Allen can cook anybody. And then he's got to face Waddle / Tyreek twice a year.
Yeah.
He's going to get his, I mean, he might cut his chops early though, right? Like to me, I like him a ton. I mean, it sounds like you're as high on him as I think you were with Horn as well. But last year I thought JC Horn was like he was my pick, right? And then obviously Parsons came out of nowhere, and I mean, not out of nowhere, but what he did was incredible. But yeah, corner, man, that's tough year one, but he's really, really good. I like that pick. I think that's a ballsy pick by you. For me, I'm going to go, I'm between two players. I think Nakobe Dean in Philly is going to be a hell of a player early on. I mean, I just see so much talent in him. And I like a kid that the 49ers are going to face in week one. Jaquan Brisker is every bit the player that he was drafted to be. You're already seeing that early on. And he's going to have to make a lot of plays in Chicago, right? Like he's going to have to be that. I'm going to go with Dean, though. I think it's the safer pick. We just talked about those two fat daddies up the middle and Cox and Davis. They're going to keep him as clean can be. And I think his athleticism is all worldly. I think he's going to be a hell of a player, very, very early, big impact guy. I think Dean wins this award.
Yeah, I think if you're worried about him being injured, Jordan Davis and Fletcher Cox of the middle, like you said, are going to keep him so clean where he's just going to be able to fly around the field. I think he leads that team in tackles.
Yeah.
I think he leads Philly in tackles. All right, last award. It's the biggest one of them all. Who do you have winning MVP of the National Football League for the 2022 NFL season?
I'm down to two players. One of them is a player that you mentioned in Justin Herbert, who is absolutely incredible. And then a player that's of the same mold, the same ilk. Said it multiple times already that I think he's the best quarterback in the league right now, and Josh Allen. I think it's a two-player race between those two. I'm going to lean Josh Allen just because I do think he's a little bit better than Herbert at this point, but Herbert's coming on very, very strong. I think this is I think this is a Buffalo season. I think this is Josh Allen's season. I think by the end of this year, it's going to be very, very clear to anybody who doesn't already think it that Josh Allen is the best quarterback in the league, and it probably isn't as close as people want to say that it is.
Yeah, I mean, when we needed a quarterback and Josh Allen was coming out, I liked him a lot. Just from the film that I watched, I knew he was raw, but I was banking on him getting to the right situation and just being able to grow and mature as a quarterback. I really, really liked Josh Allen and what he was able to bring. And just to see. I even love the fact that he was getting ready to fight a defensive tackle in training camp this year because he felt like he got hit late. And whether, he was overreacting, or you say like, Josh, you can't fight a defensive, he has that fire in him that's going to say like, no. Don't touch me. I need to be healthy because we can win it this year. Like, don't do anything dirty or cheap. I need to be available for my team because we have everything that we need to win this year. So I think he's coming in with a different motivation, especially how last season ended. For him to go toe to toe like that with Patrick Mahomes and he not be the reason that they lost that game, he did everything in his power and then some to win that game. I think he's coming in with a different fire, with a different chip on his shoulder. And I think that that's going to lead to him just playing absolutely lights out. Him and his connection with Stephon Diggs is absolutely amazing. They have other weapons around. I think Dawson Knox takes a step forward. I think Gabriel Davis takes a step forward. I think the addition of James Cook, if there's a dark horse player that I could say might win Rookie of the Year, it could be James Cook.
I like that.
Because I think Devin Singletary is okay, but they don't have a solidified number one back. They don't have a running back that says, this is my team. They don't have a Jonathan Taylor type of running back on their team right now. But what Cook is able to do, not only running the ball, but catching the ball out of the backfield, being that security blanket if Josh Allen needs to check it down so that he doesn't have to, throw the ball away or take an unnecessary sack. I think that was a great addition to this team in the later rounds of the draft that, again, not a lot of people are talking about. But once they see how he's able to play in this system with this team, it's going to be something that's amazing. So, yeah, I agree. I think this is Josh Allen's award to win. And I'd love to see him win it because he deserves it personally.
When I look at the quarterback landscape, I think he's the only quarterback that you can say is a top 3 runner and a top 3 thrower in this league. To me, when you look at running, it's clearly Lamar. I think it's probably Murray, and then it's Hurts and Allen. And I think Allen's probably a little bit above one of those guys. He gets a ton of rushing touchdowns. And then when you look at the throwing, there's some great passers in this league. There's the Aaron Rodgers, the Tom Brady's, the Mahomes, but the Herberts, but he's definitely there. Like, he's a top 3 in both of those categories, in my opinion. And when you are top 3 in both those categories and the only quarterback to be there, yeah, you're supremely talented. And like you said, at least for me, they played Kansas City twice last year. And I left both of those games going, Mahomes is not the best quarterback on that field. Both games I said that. Josh Allen he's a whole different animal, man. Size that most quarterbacks don't have, arm strength. He's really he's that deal.
Yeah, he's different. Jesse, man, I love you. Appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for taking the time. This is going to be an exciting year for myself, an exciting year for you, an exciting year for us together. We will be back again in 4 weeks. We'll have a little bit more data that we can go on. We'll do contenders and pretenders again, like we did last year. We'll talk about some of the happenings that are going on in the league. Give our overview of the first month of the season, and preview the last 3 quarters that we'll have. You see the handle right there. Follow him on Twitter, JNay_LSS. Link to Last Second Sports YouTube channel and Jesse's Twitter are in the description of this video. If you are not tapped in with Jesse and you are a Mose Knows Know-It-All, please get tapped in with Jesse and everything he's doing over at Last Second Sports, man. Any final thoughts, Jesse, before we get out of here?
No, man, I thank you for having me on. This is always a lot of fun. It's cool because obviously on my channel it's all 49ers for me. So to be able to come in and kind of cut my chops around the league and show that I know more than just San Francisco is a lot of fun. And it's just nice to do something a little bit different. Obviously, it's within the same field, but it's nice talking about other things than just San Francisco. So thank you for choosing me to do this series with you. And I can't wait until 4 weeks in to see how good or bad this whole thing plays out already 4 weeks into the season.
Yeah, I mean, and some teams will still be alive. Some teams may have their playoff hopes crushed in the first month of the season. This is why we love the game. This is why we love the sport of football, because you never know what you're going to get. So we're going to bring it to you after these first 4 weeks go by. We'll be back again. Like, comment, subscribe on this video. You can give me a subscription. YouTube /Mose Knows. Love and appreciate everybody for tuning in. You can give me a follow on IG and Twitter, what.mose.knows. Connect with me on all social media platforms. The link to those will be in the description as well. Appreciate your time and attention. Jesse, pleasure as always. And we'll catch y'all guys next time. Peace.